Okay, today I'm going to show you how to do a daisy flower cookie. The first thing I'm going to do here with an edible marker or paint pen that is edible is just dot the middle of my cookie. And then I'm going to draw just a circle around it as the middle part of the daisy. It does not have to be perfect by any means. Just make a good circle here. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to grab my outline icing. It's a little bit thicker than the flood icing, as I mentioned in my other videos. And I'm going to, it doesn't matter where you start, at what point in the cookie, but I'm going to come out. I'm going to follow this along right here. I'm going to come back down, and then you're going to close it. You can go ahead here and flood, which I like to do because I don't like to be able to see my lines unless it's something that I'm doing that I want that definition. So now I'm taking my flood icing that is much looser than the outline icing, and I always do my edges first and then I fill in. I tap. Tap it there, pick it up. If you pick it up to tap it, just be careful because I've had a couple cookies go flying. And now for this one, because of the way you want it to look, you want it to be, separated by each petal. I'm going to skip one, come here to the next one, do the same thing. Close it. Grab your flood icing. See? Now if your lines over here do look a little hardened, or you can see them, you can just do like very gentle taps with your scribe tool or your toothpick. And then you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to go around skipping each one. This one's going to be next, but then this one. Okay. Okay. So here I am on this last petal. Not the last petal, but the one we're doing for this first round. And I'm going to fill that in. Okay. So here you have all four, and then now you're going to set that aside, let it dry. What I do, I don't have a dehydrator or anything like that. I just put it in front of a table fan and allow them to, my cookies that is, to dry. So I'm going to set this one aside. And here is one that I did a little bit earlier. So this is what it looks like when it dries. And then now that you have these that are set, you're going to come through and you're going to go ahead and do your outline with this one. Now I'm picking this up because my icing, I always say with the icing bags, there's a certain way that's best to hold them, and that is with the line up. I've noticed that when my back line is facing up like this, the icing doesn't tend to spiral. So you just want to try that. If you are having issues with it spiraling, it's just coming out. It comes out in a straight line, and that's super helpful. Okay. And that's okay that I messed up there and it's overlapping. It's all fixable. So now here I'm taking my flat icing again. I'm going to start with that area just so that I can get it to disappear. You do want to keep it, in the petal. Oops, sorry about that. Okay. Now you can use both the tapping technique, which I always do. I do both. Kind of depends. And then if there's any air bubbles, like I've said before, if there's any unevenness, like out here on the edge, it looks a little funky. Just a little tiny tap with your scribe tool will even that out. And then now we're going to go through and do the same thing with the others. I'm going to do this one. And if you have to come back through like that, I knew that was going to happen. That's perfectly okay. If you need to stop and pick up, you can do that too. It just depends. You just kind of go with the flow. I can be a perfectionist, so when that happens, it can be frustrating, but like I said, most everything is pretty fixable. So I wouldn't worry or stress. Even this little bit of icing that I got here on the edge, I'm about to get rid of that. There. Okay, and then I'm going to keep going. Okay, here I am on the last petal here. Bring it down, close it off. Get your flat icing. There we go. All right, scribe tool over here. Okay, almost. Okay, and there we go. And then you're going to want to let this set too. One of the things that I do, because it can dry at the same time, is I go ahead and do a little bit of my my interior, and I will show you that in a minute. You can choose any color that you want. You can do a yellow. I would recommend using a thicker icing, add a little bit more, you know, powdered sugar if need be, you know, to a bowl with maybe the regular icing that you made. You know, color it with whatever color, and then you're going to use it for your dots. But you're probably going to do 2 or 3 rounds of your daisy interior, and I'll show you why. Because you don't want them to run together. Using a thicker icing, it shouldn't, that's the point, but you still want it to be distinguished. So I'm just going to go through, being careful not to touch any of the parts that we just did, so be really careful. If you want to wait too until all of it dries, whatever you're more comfortable with, that is perfectly fine. So you're just going to go ahead and get as many in there as you can, but still giving some space for you to come back through with a second round, second or third round. And then we're going to set this to the side. Okay, and so just to show you, once it has dried, and you go through with your different, you know, colors or your second or third round in the middle, this is what it's going to look like. Different variations you can do if you want to do, you know, stacking. Here's one that I've done, that after we did that first round that I just showed you, we go through. You don't even actually have to wait and do every other for this type, because they're not touching. When they're touching, that's when you want to skip every other. But in this instance, when you're doing your second tier design, you can just go through and do the petals there. Again, let that dry. Here's another one that I did, a little bit of a different design. You know, you can use any color combinations. You know, here's one that I alternated with a little bit of lavender and white. And then, you know, of course, you can always freehand whatever you want, you know. So here's some that I did, you know, different flowers. Again, with these, you don't really need to, since the petals aren't touching, you don't need to wait. But with these, I had to go through and do every other. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to let me know. Thank you. Get inspired.